Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you very much, my brother and colleague, Yao Preko. Like he alluded to in his introduction, this is a single item presser, and we're going straight to the point. Former President Nyamah has been touring this country, thanking Ghanaians for voting him out, and explaining himself as to why he lost the elections. But as much as we are giving him the space and time to grieve, he's now going to the point of fabricating and maligning public institutions, credible ones that have taken years to build their reputations and credibility. We, as a very interested party, to be very frank with you, all the thoughts and the speeches of the former president are shadow boxing of the NPP and no one else. In actual fact, his main target is the sitting president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He cannot get beyond the massive electoral defeats he has encountered 3 times, twice at the polling station and once in the court. And so he's now fabricating and making up cases against the Electoral Commission, against the Supreme Court, against the NPP, and we think it's about time that he's called to order. And so this presser basically addresses that issue. And without much ado, I would rather read from the script. And when I'm done, you have any questions, you can throw them at me. Now, it is titled The Retrofitting and Rebranding of John Dramani Mahama, the case of 1 million ballot stuffing. The new Patriotic Party has watched with keen interest the various attempts by former President Mahama to rebrand and retrofit himself to take over the reins of the National Democratic Congress unchallenged. Though his attempts to cow the NDC into submission is an internal matter, which the NPP wants no part of, we cannot stand by idly whilst in his post-election defeat trauma, he seeks to malign and destroy credible public institutions like the Supreme Court and the Electoral Commission with outright fabrications bordering on criminality without us holding his feet to the fire. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the former president is a sore loser who cannot get past his second election defeat to the same man, President Akufo-Addo, who has handed him the heaviest defeats in our political history, first in 2016 and secondly in 2020. The evidence to this is the fact that ex-President Mahama, even after the Supreme Court ruling, has officially not conceded defeat, nor has he been gracious enough to call to congratulate the president as we speak. The pain of this defeat is so deep that he is seeking to destroy every institution that played a role in the 2020 elections by fabricating and maligning them and sending his hawks after same. The net effect of his actions are that he's eroding confidence in our institutions, which institutions he had the privilege of overseeing for about 6 years as president. When it suits him and it's in his favor, he is full of praise for the Electoral Commission. And when it's against him, hell must break loose. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, our recent presidential and parliamentary elections have been adjudged by both domestic and international observers as by far the most credible, transparent, free, and fair since 1992. He stated, adding that the Electoral Commission must take much of the credit for this feat. This was in his maiden address to the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana after the 2012 elections. For his information, The same Electoral Commission after the 2020 elections has been adjudged by the same domestic and international observers as free and fair, and by far the most credible, transparent, free and fair since 1992. But he's too blinded by pain and anger of his defeat. He does not see nor hear it. The former president sent his legal lackeys, including a former Deputy Attorney General, to run down the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice when he was handed his third defeat at the Supreme Court. What has become of the said contempt case, we are yet to know. However, the former president needs to be told in no uncertain terms that the elections is over and he should get over it. Nyamah versus Electoral Commission on 1 million ballot stuffing. The NPP agrees with the Electoral Commission that the allegations of the former president, Nyamah, that the commission engaged in electoral fraud through ballot stuffing is outrightly criminal, and we call on the Inspector General of Police to invite him for questioning and for the former president to make available all evidence of the said 1 million stuffed ballots to the police for the appropriate charges to be brought against the said personnel of the Electoral Commission who engaged in the said act. We have observed with admiration the new IGP lead Ghana Police into a new era where the police acts without fear or favor, and the IGP not fearing whose ox is God. The recent arrest of Reverend Osubempa, Shatawale, and Medical, based on information obtained in the media, has seen our confidence in the police grow. The Electoral Commission, calling on the police to investigate this ballot stuffing matter, is an official complaint that must not be ignored. We call on the IGP and the police CID to, as a matter of urgency, call the former president as a person of interest and a witness in this matter. The former president is not a serial caller who is entitled to make frivolous statements and get away with them. He has led this country, and his words must count for something. The crux of the issue is that the former president, after losing at the polls and the Supreme Court, has taken his case to the court of public opinion. In seeking to whip up the support of his gullible base, the former president is fabricating and making allegations that he is not entitled to. If there is any evidence of 1 million stuffed ballots, the 2020 elections, which President Nana Akufo-Addo won, will essentially flip to former President Nyamah. Please note that the difference between the two candidates then was 500,000 votes. With 1 million ballots stuffed in Nana Akufo-Addo's favor, it needs no saying that former President Nyamah would have won the election by 500,000 votes instead of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. This was core evidence, not even mentioned in the NDC petition to the Supreme Court. The question is, if President Nyamah had such information and evidence, why did he not submit same to the Supreme Court as part of his petition? If he doesn't trust the Supreme Court to have adjudicated this well, then the police should give him the chance to make the said evidence available, to give him an opportunity to appeal the first Supreme Court verdict. So the verdict that has been handed out can be appealed if he submits this, because this, we think, is fresh evidence. And the police should assist him to do that. The do or die strategy. The fabrications of 1 million votes ballot stuffing is a grand strategy being prepared by the former president to cause mayhem in the next general elections. He is playing the victim by crying foul and concocting non-existent evidence to prepare the grounds for electoral violence in the 2024 elections. If the IGP and the police CID refused to invite him for questioning, they would have given justification to the former president, Nyamah, and his supporters that he was cheated out of 1 million votes, and this, ladies and gentlemen, will be enough justification for his goons to go on rampage in 2024. Mind you, the former president and the NDC have justified their do or die slogan and are taking steps to prepare the minds of Ghanaians to do or die. In other jurisdictions, disgraced former officers who embarrassed the whole country by flying millions of dollars to share to footballers will either be behind bars or at least feel ashamed enough to hide from the public. Unfortunately, in Ghana, this is a sign of party loyalty and warrants praise and stardom. The NPP thinks that Mr. Elvis Afriye Ankra, the NDC Director of Elections, who made the following comments, also needs to be invited along with the former president by the police to further explain himself. And I quote what he said. So, if you have a Supreme Court that will not create the conditions for the truth to come out, no wonder they will come out to say that it was very transparent, despite the issues that went on. That is why we are saying that, okay, 2024, we have learned our lessons, and we will not go to court. We will settle it, whatever, anyway, anyhow. This is every anchor. The NDC and the former president are openly inciting the public against state institutions, and the police cannot look on unconcerned. Incompetent leadership. At the Supreme Court, led by their star witness Johnson Asiedun Ketia, supported by Rojo Metal Numa and Dr. Presser White, the NDC failed to adduce any evidence and were relying on the chair of the Electoral Commission to make their case for them. What the former president fails to tell his supporters on his thank you tour is that his appointed agents at the Electoral Commission were so incompetent that they abandoned their posts to go charge their phones after having cups of tea. If the NDC only discovered that elections are won and lost at the polling station in 2020, after the Supreme Court made such a declaration in 2012, it only speaks to how incompetent and unprepared they are for the next elections. Instead of blaming everyone but themselves, it is time for former President Nyamah and the NDC to take a look in the mirror and start cleaning their own mess to have any chance in 2024. At this rate, the NPP will beat them to pulp in 2024. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the NPP is adding our voice to the call by the Electoral Commission for the police to further investigate this 1 million ballot stuffing claim by the former president. Failing to do so, the police owe it to Ghanaians an explanation why they wouldn't. Mr. IGP. Secondly, we also want the police to take note of the inciting comments of both the former president and the director of elections of the NDC and have both caution to that effect. Lastly, we call on the NDC supporters to ask their leaders the following questions. 1. If former President Nyamah at an NDC forum alluded to the fact that one of the reasons the NDC lost, I repeat and I emphasize, one of the reasons why the NDC lost the 2020 elections was due to illiterate polling agents. What business has the NDC and former President Nyamah blaming the Supreme Court, the Electoral Commission, the NPP, and everyone else but themselves? Lastly, the NDC leadership should make available all pink sheets of both the 2016 and 2020 elections to a panel of NDC experts to evaluate for themselves and possibly adduce new evidence to appeal the judgment, if indeed they have any pink sheets at all. Thank you very much.